we've got our project folder, and so far we just have one source audio. I'm actually realizing just now that I did not save my project when I was demoing before, so let's do that before we do anything else. But once we do that, we're going to add a couple more source files in here and then edit them together. So I forgot to save my project. I'm going to go back to Audacity for a second, and I'm just going to go to File, Save Project. And I can also just hit Command S, and it's going to save the project. And this warning basically tells me what I was going to say anyway. Save project is for an Audacity project, not an audio file. So when we save an Audacity project, that's like a PSD or an AI file. It saves all the edits. We can go back and re-edit it later. We can't really what I was kind of talking before is if I cut something, I can't really undo things that I cut before. So it's a little less flexible than Photoshop in that sense. But of course, I can always bring in my old original files if I need to. But it's a project file, so it's not a file that I could send to somebody and they could play on their phone or play on their stereo or on their computer or whatever, unless they have Audacity to open it up. We'll go over exporting in another demo, but for now we just want to make sure we understand that. So I'll click OK there. Again, on the Mac, I'm usually going to open up this drop down so I can see better where I'm putting this. So I'm going to go to the desktop, go to the MMP 100, go to my audio project, and I'm going to change the name. It grabbed this name from the file that I put in it earlier, but that's not what I want to call it. So I'm just going to call this my audio project. You can really call this whatever you want. It doesn't really matter that much. But then notice here, this is the extension, AUP3. This stands for Audacity Project, and it's the third version of Audacity, which kind of means there's been different versions of Audacity over the years, and this is the most recent one, and it has some features that previous versions don't have, and some of those are not compatible or whatever. But you can see that's really the only option we have here, so that should be easy. And we'll just click Save there. And what that means is if I quit Audacity, I can open up this project, and it will still be there. And I can still edit it and do whatever else I need to do. This is one of the files that you will turn in when you submit the project. So make sure that you save this and you know where it is, and it has all the edits that ultimately make up the project that you export, because you will need to do that for me to grade it. You just have to submit that file. It might get kind of large, but it'll probably be fine. Okay, so we've got our podcast intro or whatever we're making, and what I want to do, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to layer a little bit of music under it, and then I'm going to get a sound effect of like a bell ringing. We don't actually have bells that ring at BMCC, but it is a school. It'll get us in the zone of we're talking about a school. So that's an easy sound effect just to add in here. And so just like when I found images for my self-portrait, when I want to find sounds to use in my project, there's a few ways that I can find Creative Commons sounds. So I'm going to go back to Chrome. And there's some links here on the audio page for the class. So Creative Commons licensed sound. And these are not every website. There's a lot of websites that do this, but these are just a few that I like to use. Freesound.org. This one is a really awesome website. I make a lot of animations and video games when I'm doing my own creative work, and this is the site that I use the most often to find sounds. People record sounds and just upload them here, and they put various different licenses on them, and some of them are pretty, really high quality. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are. And like it says, it's free. You do have to have a login. You can't download stuff until you have a login. So I'm just going to log into my account. You can see, Chrome has already filled it in here. So if you don't have an account, you just have to make it. It doesn't take very long. So this is a really good site for lots of different things. Usually what I use it for is sound effects. There's some other sites like the Internet Archive. This is good for music, for audiobooks, other things like that. A lot of like historical things. There's a lot of interesting stuff on here. SoundCloud will tag things with their licensing. Or actually, wait, is this This says SoundCloud, but this is, oh, okay, yeah. There's different ways that I can explore through here. And then royalty-free music on Bensound is another one that's good. There's no link to it, but another one that I use, I'll have to add this link. Another one I use a lot is the free music archive. I like this one a lot because of the way that it's organized. You can browse by genre, which is a really easy way to find a specific type of music. So, there's different types of music: jazz, instrumental, country, all the different types of music that you might want to use. So depending on the vibe that you're going for, that makes it a little bit easier to find stuff. So let's start with our bell sound. So I'm going to go back to free sound, and I'm just going to type class bell. And here we have school bell, and so there's a lot of information here. You can see there's 13,000 different sounds. We're not going to listen to all of them, but you can see a little preview of the waveform. That should give you a pretty quick idea of how loud it is, how long it is. I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit in case this is really loud. And then, this actually has a rating. So this has 2 stars, which it's not the best rating, but who knows how many people have used it. It does have a lot of downloads. And some comments. And then you can also see these icons show you the license. So one of the things here that is kind of helpful is this no $sign or the $sign crossed out means that if I want to use this sound, I can't use it in a commercial project. The little person icon means that I have to give attribution to the creator. Those are both fine things, but a lot of them you'll just see this 0. That means you can use this sound and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to credit the creator. You do have to do that for the class assignment, but you don't have to do that for legal whatever reasons. Then you can actually go to specific licenses. So if I only want to see Creative Commons 0, if I don't want to have to worry about any of this stuff, I can just click on Creative Commons 0, and it's only going to show me that type of license. There's also different tags, so I might want to find specific stuff in there. There's file types. So as we learn more about sound files, we'll know more about these different types. But the main ones you'll probably want to look for are MP3. This is a highly compressed file type, which is very common. So it's it's supported in lots of places. WAV is the most common. This is uncompressed. So those are going to be the highest quality, but also the highest file size. You can search by sample rate or bit depth. We probably don't really need to worry about that. But there's other information there. Anyway, let's see. Maybe this one will sound good. Let's just try the first one. And so we can preview. This is actually really long, so that is not probably what I want. But let's skip ahead to this loud part and see if this sounds good. It's a bit long, but it's pretty good. Let's see if there's anything else that looks better. I don't really see, maybe this one. I guess the school bell is longer than I remember it being. This one is shorter, and so I'm going to have an easier time working with this one. So I might go with that. But yeah, I can preview these and kind of take a look at them. And then if I want to download one, I'll click here. I already know that this is Creative Commons License 0 because I specified that, but you could, if it's a different Creative Commons license, it'll tell you what it is here. I'm going to want to bookmark this so I don't forget about it. So on Chrome, I'm just going to click the little bookmark. If you're on a different browser, there's probably a bookmark button somewhere. So when I post this later on OpenLab, I'll be able to find this, or if I need to download it again, and I'll be able to cite the creator and other stuff as well. Okay, so now we can just download, and it's going to download for a second. We can see it's a 7-second wave file, so that's good. The sample rate is 44, so that's actually a different sample rate than our original recording, but Audacity will figure that out for us. We really don't have to worry about that with digital stuff. With the more modern software, it'll do it for us, so we don't really care about that, and everything else looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and find some music while I'm here, and then we'll go back over to Audacity and edit everything at the same time. So I've got my bell sound. Of course, I could go and find other sounds if I'm doing more stuff, but for now, I'll just stick with that. Now I'll go back over to the Free Music Archive, and I'll find some music to put in the background. It kind of, depends on the vibe. Maybe I want to go for something a little elevated. Maybe I'll do some classical music. Maybe we'll do some, maybe chamber music will sound kind of nice. And so I like this website because it's pretty simple, but it gives you everything you need to do. I can sample the music here, and then sample a lot of different sounds here. And then if I want to know more, I can actually just like download it directly. But if I click on the link here, I'll learn more information. So let's listen to this first one. I can skip ahead if I want to look for different parts. That's pretty good, but I might want to try some other stuff. Let's listen to this one. Okay, that's pretty cool. Obviously, I could listen to a lot more, but I think I'm going to go with this second one. Dreamy Waltz by Audio Copy. I like that name as well. So there's a little description. It tells me, how many people have played it, how many people have downloaded it. Here's the Creative Commons license. This one is a little bit restrictive. It says no derivatives, non-commercial. That is okay for a school project. I probably wouldn't use this for like a game if I was making a game, because I wouldn't be able to sell it, and I wouldn't be able to like change this as much as I wanted to. But that's okay. For a school project, that's fine. I'm not going to try to sell this. I'm not gonna try to add my own new license to this or anything like that. So this is a slightly more restrictive license, but in this context, that's fine. So then I'm gonna click this download button here. It also makes me sign up. I forgot to do this, so I'm gonna sign in. I think I have an account with my BMCC email. I'm gonna kind of. Oh, actually, I think. Hopefully, I remember my password. I didn't remember that I have to sign into this one too. Okay, let me see if I can. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can reset this real quick. Okay, maybe it's a different email. No. Okay, so it's definitely my BMCC email. But it's kind of slow. Okay, I'll just use a different website if this doesn't arrive soon. All right, let me try a different password, and then we'll try something else. There we go. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so now I can download it. Sorry about that. So it's actually, this is new. So they've updated this website a little bit. You must give appropriate credit. Okay, I know that. Personal use allowed. Not for video, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, podcast, or other derivative works. Commercial work use not allowed. So again, for a student assignment, this is fine. For a class project, this is fine. You wouldn't want to use this if you were making something for like a real YouTube channel, for your actual Instagram, for like a film, whatever. So again, this is a good thing to be aware of. You can use this for class, but you can't use this for like another type of project that you might work on. Okay, so we've got our two sound files. Let's go back to the Finder and make sure we have them in our project folder. So I'm just going to open a new Finder window and go to my Downloads folder. And here is my bell sound. And it has a really long name. So one thing I might do, just to make it a little simpler, is I can hit Enter on the Mac and just rename this like bell sound. It doesn't actually matter what the sound file is named. I'm just going to drag that over there. And then my audio coffee, that one's fine. I'll drag this over here as well. So now I've got my sound files. And so I'll put them in Audacity. It doesn't necessarily matter where they are, but it just makes it easier for me to kind of find them later if I need to. I'm also going to bookmark this website, this page, before I leave. And now I'm just going to drag these into Audacity, and we'll see what it does is it's going to make some new tracks for me. So I'll start with the bell sound. If I drag and drop, it's just going to add the bell sound into my track. So I'm going to click this button to kind of zoom out. It's already zoomed out, so that's good. And what I can do is just, this got really big for some reason. If I want to make these tracks smaller or larger, I can just drag up and down here. Another thing you'll notice is that this top track only has one wave and the bottom track has two. So the top track, when I recorded with the microphone, there's only one source of audio, which is the way the iPhone works and most phones. There's only one microphone that's capturing audio. Because when we're talking on the phone, the audio quality has to be good enough for people to hear the words we're saying, but it doesn't have to be beautiful music quality audio. So they just use one microphone. They just get one source. For this bell sound, there's two waves because this is actually stereo audio. Most like high quality audio is recorded with a stereo microphone. That means it's actually recording from two sources, and it does that to recreate the way that we hear things. We have two ears and we hear sounds from both of our ears. That helps us understand, like, based on loudness, how far away things are, and it gives us like a better sense of things in the world. So that's why we see two waveforms here. We can edit it exactly the same way that we have before. You can see there's like a slight differences in the waveforms. Like if I zoom in right here and expand this a little bit, it's kind of hard to tell because it's actually kind of quiet. Let's actually go to a different spot. Let's zoom in maybe right here. If you look closely, you can kind of see that there's differences. So it's one sound, but it's got two different sources. So it's stereo sound. Anyway, we can play this back, but what I want to do is I want to zoom out a little bit, and I want this to come in after I'm done talking. So I'm going to put it here, and so now when we play back this whole thing, welcome to my podcast thing about the MCC. I'm just recording some test audio, and we'll take a look at it. All right, I'm going to cut this whole end part because we really don't need that. So I'm just going to move this back here, and let's just play that again. Welcome to my podcast thing about the MCC. Okay, I want a little bit more of a pause here, and then the bell sound is actually a bit quieter than my audio. So what I can do is I can turn the volume up on the gain a little bit here, maybe like 10. That shouldn't be too loud, but that's about where I want it. This is a little longer than I want it to be. So if I want to make something shorter, I'm going to cut it, but I also want to make sure to make what's called a fade out, because I don't want like a really harsh clipping at the end. So let's say I want my bell sound to be shorter. I'll listen to it a bit. So let's say I want it to only go to here. I don't want to cut right there. I want to give myself a little more room. So I'm going to cut here. So I'll go here and I'll hit Command I. So I'll make a split there. Then I'll select this section. So I'll double click on here and just click delete. Now I have a better duration for my bell sound. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and then zoom out just a little bit. And what I'm going to do for the end of this sound, if we listen, when you're listening to audio, I'm going to turn it up a little bit in the speakers for a second. So when we listen to the end of this, you hear there's like this harsh clip when it goes from audio all the way on to audio all the way off. We don't want to subject our audience to that type of harsh sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a certain portion of this. And there's multiple ways to do this, but the easy, simple approach is to select this area and go to Effect, Fading, and say fade out. So now when we listen back to this, now we get this nice fade out to silence. Okay, so it's not very long, but it sounds much better. Okay, so that's how we do a fade out. It's really easy. There's more complex things that we can do that I'll go over next time. But I'll always add a little fade out to a clip. I might even add a little tiny fade in. So if I zoom in a lot to this clip right here, you can see that the creator of this actually already did this. So whoever made this audio file knows enough to add a little fade in. So I don't need to do this because they've already done it for me. But let's imagine I downloaded something and it actually started like here. And it looked like this. And when I zoom in all the way, I got to make sure that my play head is right there, or else it's gonna that's gonna disappear. When I zoom in all the way and I see that the samples are actually quite loud at the beginning, I don't want that. That's a harsh clipping sound. So I can take even just the tiniest little amount of this and then go to Effect, Fading, and Fade In. And now I have a nice little fade in. I won't torture my listener with those nasty audio clippings. So you don't even hear it. You don't even hear that volume ramp, but it's there, and it's going to make our audio much nicer. So I'm going to zoom to here again. And so now we've got our bell sound. Let's layer in our music. One more thing I'll cover real quick actually before we do that. So I do have this other thing down here. So this is the volume slider. This slider with the L and R, you might already have a guess for what this is. This is the pan. So when we have stereo sound, we have two different sounds, and we can pan left or pan right. I'll play this bell sound back again, and I'm going to pan all the way to the left. You may not hear this because the speakers are in the ceiling, so it may be hard to notice this. If you're working on your computer with headphones, it'll be very, very obvious. But if I play this back, it's only going to be on the left speakers. Okay, now if I pan all the way to the right, oh, I guess we don't have right speakers in here. So I guess that was a good demonstration. If you have right speakers, that's really funny. I don't know why. I didn't know either those speakers are broken or they just didn't set it up. Anyway, normally if you have headphones on, you will hear more in the right, more in the left. And you don't have to do all the way to one or the other. You could play with, like, if you want something to sound like it's coming from different places, you could move it like a little bit over to the right or a little bit over to the left. A lot of music, they'll mix like two different vocal tracks on the right and left to get certain effects, or they'll put one guitar on the right and one on the left. It's fun to play around with that stuff, but it's you can kind of play with that if you want to. I'm going to leave this in the middle for now, and let's add our music. So I'm going to save and then go back to my Finder. And here's my Audio Coffee Dreamy Waltz. I'm just going to drag this down here. And there we go. It's gonna add it in here. This is much longer. See how much longer my timeline is now? I don't really need all this, so I'm just going to cut out a lot of it just to start. I'm just going to go to 30 seconds. Actually, I'm not even going to do that much. I'm going to do 15 seconds. Yours, I think, has to be longer. I forget exactly what let's check the length requirement. For the assignment, the finished audio file should be at least 1 minute and no longer than 3 minutes. And you should combine at least 5 different sounds. Okay, so yours is going to be longer than this, but since I'm just demoing, I'm going to cut at 15 seconds. So I'm just going to go here, I'm going to hit Command I, and I'm going to double click on this section and delete. And now I'm going to click on this fit button again and fit this here. This is also a stereo track. Music is almost always recorded in stereo. So let's listen to this now. Welcome to my pod. Oof. Okay, I'm going to turn the volume down. So now I want my music to start before my speaking. Okay, so what I can do is select all of this. So I can actually select multiple tracks by just dragging through all of these different sections. And now when I move, they'll move all at the same time. So let's move this up here. And let's try that again. Welcome to Okay. So that sounds pretty good. I really, it's annoying to listen to your self-talk, but I'm just gonna deal with it. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. The audio at the beginning is good. One thing that I'm gonna want to do is I want the music to get quieter when my speaking comes in. So this is probably the last thing I'll cover right now. So if I want to do that, I could do like a fade out, but it's the effect fade out is always going to go to 0, and I don't want to turn the music completely off. So what I want to do is something called automation. This is when I add different points in my waveform that say go to these different volumes. If you've ever done animation before, which we'll do a little bit later, but if you've happened to do any animating in other classes or on your own time, this is sort of like keyframing, if you know what that concept is. If not, it is something that we're going to cover later, but just to kind of make that comparison. If I want to do some automation, I'm going to make these tracks a little smaller and make this track a little bit bigger, and I'm going to zoom in here. And what I want to do is just lower the volume of this audio over the course of this section right here. And so to do that, I click on this toolbar, the envelope tool. The envelope refers to like this audio part. And what I can do is when I click on this blue line, it adds these dots. And these dots are volume. And so if I move this one down, that is lower volume. If I leave it all the way up, it's whatever the basic volume is. So I can go all the way to 0, but I don't want it to turn completely off. I want it to go to like maybe like half. And so now I can play this back. Welcome to. And then I can start to mix how far this fade out goes, how quiet it gets. But once I get something that I like, I'll just go back to the selection tool, and I can see that this fade out is here. So this just changes this one section of audio, but I can still, if I want to change the overall loudness of the audio, I can do this, and it'll apply relatively to each one of these sections. So I don't need to do that. I'm going to leave the gain at 0. I have my little fade out. And then, of course, I'm going to add a fade out at the end. And I can automate that if I want to. I can go back to this automation, and I can add another point and move that like this, and then add another point here. But I could also use my fade out effect, which is actually more what I want to do. Instead of adding more automation, which makes things more complicated, let's just grab this part and just go to effect and do another fade out, fade to 0. Okay, so now I've basically done most of the things that I would want to do to make an audio piece. I've edited stuff, moved stuff around, changed the volume. When you're making a longer editing piece, it's just kind of like using, adding the effects in, adding volume changes and stuff like that. So your timeline, when you get to a minute or 2 or 3 minutes of audio, there's going to be more parts, it's going to be longer, but those are basically the main tools that you need to use to be able to edit stuff together. So for now, I'll stop here, and you guys can continue to work on your projects until the rest of class. Next week, as I mentioned, we're only doing 2 weeks on audio, so next week I'm going to go over using some other effects to do some cool stuff. And then I'll also go over exporting different audio files so that we can publish our project. And if there's other stuff that we have time to cover, we can talk about that as well. So I'll stop the video here.